Hey everybody, it's Sam Atari here, and welcome to another edition of Sam Talks. So yesterday we got the biggest news we've gotten in like forever, and basically they are remaking Hoenn, which is a Pokemon 3rd generation, which consisted of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Now I am super stoked about this because everybody's, been looking at the hints, and they're like, oh my god, Hoenn confirmed, and it's kind of been an ongoing joke since Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, that they were going to do a Ruby and Sapphire remake. But there was a lot of people that doubted that they would ever make it because as the years rolled by, we had Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and they included a lot of things from the 3rd generation, such as Groudon and Kyogre, and even Rayquaza. So everybody was kind of debating on whether they were going to have their own games or whether or not they had just kind of mixed them in with the 2nd gen remakes, which was a good theory, but I was always hoping that they would come out with a new 3rd gen game. Now the thing is, this 3rd generation is pretty much all but forgotten. It came out in 2003, and oh god, 2003, how old was I then? Oh, 9, at 9 years old, it was 2000, so I was like 12. Yeah, okay, so I was 12 years old when these games came out, and I remember the story of me getting Ruby version was I went to a Kmart, and I was just browsing through the video game section with my dad when all of a sudden I saw Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire version. And I didn't even know a new Pokemon game came out, and I literally laid on the floor and started crying until he bought me this game, because I knew that if I walked away from that shelf, I was probably never going to get this game because it was going to disappear by the time Christmas came around, because I didn't even know this game existed. I didn't even know how long it had been out. Like, they were always getting rid of stuff off the shelves that was really old, so I was like, I need it now. And I played the shit out of that game. Like, okay, the thing is there's a lot of people that did not like 3rd generation. They were kind of sketchy about the 2nd generation, but ultimately they liked it. But 3rd generation kind of was a huge leap. Not only were we changing platforms, because we went from frickin' the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance. So not only were we changing systems, but there was just a lot of things that were different about this game. Like from the opening intro, just to the music in general, just to the whole layout of the game, everything felt very, very different, and it was something very, very new. So basically, when you talk about 3rd generation, it's only broken up in 2 categories. I don't feel like there's a middle ground. You either really loved it or you really hated it. And that's like my only beef with it, is that people tend to have beef with it. So let me just clarify some things about what people hate, supposedly, about the 3rd generation. Basically, 3rd generation, they say that 3rd generation of Pokemon was very, like I said, very strange, and they didn't like the layout. I will agree with them on some of these points, but don't quote me on all of these because I'm not really sure why. One, the people were not fond of the Pokemon. We stretched out and did something totally new, and there weren't very many old Pokemon in this game, if you remember. If you've ever played it, I don't know if you have or not. But a lot of the old Pokemon that showed up in of course, Gold version and the previous gen, 1st gen, a lot of them didn't show up in this game. It was basically centered around just the 3rd gen Pokemon, which was a whole new lineup. People didn't like the starters, they didn't like the Pokemon in general, and that was the first problem. Second problem was just the layout. Third problem was that the whole region seemed to be nothing but water. You got surf really early, and you needed it because everything was on water. Another thing that they didn't like is they didn't like the legendaries because of the way that they had to be found, because you basically needed a guide to find the Reggies, and they complain about a lot of things. There's not enough of a post-game. The game itself wasn't much of a challenge. Yada, 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 yada. The Team Magma and Team Aqua were really stupid, and they were like the worst enemies in the world, and they obviously didn't know what they were doing, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Legitimate points, all of them. Team Aqua and Team Magma are pretty much the dumbest villains, other than Team Flare, that we've had since Pokemon began. At least Team Galactic had a really evil, conniving strategy, as did Ghetsis and Team Plasma. But when you look at Team Aqua and Team Magma, Team Aqua's like, we want more ocean, even though people wouldn't be able to survive, and neither would, land Pokemon, ground-type Pokemon. Where were they gonna live? And then you have Team Magma that was like, no, there needs to be more land. But then again, you have the problem, what about the sea? What about sea Pokemon? What about the fact that we get rain from said sea? And we need that to grow stuff. Like, they weren't really thinking. Like, Team Magma was like, oh, we gotta make more land, so let's just freaking throw our, a bomb into a volcano and that'll work, like, it's really dumb. If you haven't played the games already, I would suggest you do so, because it's really, really funny, and you'll see what I mean. As far as the surfing goes, who cares? Okay, the land layout, okay, there's a lot of water. Get used to it. Yes, there's going to be a lot of tentacle, but how different is that than all the other games where you have to go in a bazillion caves and you get nothing but Zubats? Granted, tentacle are a lot harder to deal with because they have poison sting. I get it, I feel your pain. But at the same time, it's just something that we have to get around. The thing is that people are looking at all the negative things of Hoenn because a lot of people either didn't start on 3rd generation. Those that started on 3rd generation tend to like it, but a lot of the people coming in from the 2nd gen were kind of older by that time, and all the new things that came in on 3rd generation was pretty much just overwhelming. They kind of felt like Nintendo was finally running out of ideas, and ever since then, people have been complaining that Nintendo is running out of ideas. But what they're really forgetting about the 3rd generation is all the amazing things that it brought us. First of all, running shoes. Running shoes has been absolutely amazing. Like, I love the running shoes because you can just travel around a lot faster. You don't always need a bicycle and you don't always have to worry about whatever. You have running shoes. So that was really awesome that you could finally run around in a game, and you really needed to because this land was just massive. Another thing that they gave us is they gave us secret bases. I know it sounds stupid, but I love it when there's extra stuff in the game. And I love the fact that I could go design my own secret base, and I could even find a place so that I could, my own special place, the place I wanted it, so I could go pick a specific spot for my secret base. The funniest thing was when you lost your secret base, and then you had to go looking for it, and you're like, fuck, where'd I put that thing? It was fantastic. Another thing that they gave us, talking about secret bases, is Game Sync. Game Sync allowed you to sync your game with your friends, and that way, like my buddy Dustin, he was the one that I synced up my game with. And so every day I could go to his secret base, which now suddenly appeared in my game because we had done the game sync, and I could battle him every single day. Sure, I was battling more of an AI that copied his stats, like his party and etc., but it was still really fun, and it was like I got to see my best friend every day, back when he was still my bestest friend. Another thing that they gave us, since Cast Form was always the one that made my freaking hidden bases, weather. The thing is like we have weather in games, but it never really caused status stuff. I don't even remember in the original I keep saying Heart Gold, even though it's not the original. Damn. I don't remember in Gold version if ever there was a place where it rained. I don't remember if there was ever a place where there was a sandstorm or it was snowing. Sure, you have, like, I don't know. So the thing is, that's another thing that Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald brought to us was weather. We had rain, hail, sandstorms, sun, like bright sun, blinding sun, and all of that affected our Pokemon. Either it was damaging them or it was helping them in some way. Another thing that 3rd gen brought to us was Pokemon abilities. Like, what about the poison barb ability, like the poison touch or whatever, poison body, there we go, poison body. Where it's like you touch them, you get poisoned. What about static? You touch them, they get paralyzed. What about, the regenerator ability? Or blah 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 blah, or thick fat, or levitate. All those things came in from the 3rd generation and added a new level to our gaming. It was something new, it was something different, it was something that no one had ever tried before. At least, in the Pokemon sense. It was revolutionary almost. Because not only did we just have a Pokemon with a set of stats, we had a Pokemon with a nature, we had Pokemon with an ability, and that's what got people to saying, okay, I want this ability rather than this ability. I'd rather have blah 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 instead of this. So, it's something that's really, really amazing, and people tend to forget about that. Another thing that 3rd gen brought us was Pokemon contests. I love Pokemon contests. I think they're amazing. Not that they're, like, so cool, because, the visuals or whatever, because actually it's pretty lame when you think about it, but at the same time, I really like playing them. I like having a mini-game, a game within a game. I've always liked that. That's why I like the slots. That's why I like making, Pokepuffs or Pokepoffs or whatever you want to call them. I like doing the berry blender and all that other stuff. I loved it because, You know, it was a mini game. It was something that got you away from the main quest for a while just to do something different. And I liked the fact in this one that you could grow your own berries. It was awesome. Granted, my problem was is that I didn't grow berries, and then I used all my berries, and then after I used all my berries, the guy that usually gives you free ones stopped giving me free ones, and then I was in a world with no berries. It was it was shitty, but yeah, there's nothing I could do. But that was in my original. In the new game, I'm being a lot more responsible. But yeah, so I mean, it is just one of the many things that this game offered us. Dive, the HM dive. I love traveling under the ocean. I think it's so cool that now we can go under the ocean and we can go and look through caves and everything else. People's like, there's so much water. Well, that's because you're supposed to dive and go under the ocean and explore. You can even run into wild Pokemon down there, and you get all these freaking items. It's amazing. But everybody wants to look at the bad stuff. Trying to think. Okay, so everybody complained that the storyline really sucked. Okay, the storyline wasn't the greatest, but I like the fact that this finally introduced a Pokemon god. The Pokemon that created the land. The Pokemon that created the sea. You know, this is when we start getting into the Pokemon theology thing, and I really like that aspect. What else did I do that? Oh, okay. I wrote down notes, so I'm like, ah ha ha ha. Okay, but I will admit, the only problem I had with it is that there really was no post-game. You beat the game, and then that's it. There's really nothing you can do after you beat the game, except fill your Pokédex. Now, there's not very many games that are shitty like this. Usually there are games that at least have something like a post-game. But basically, other than first generation, third generation is one of the only games, I think, that did not have a post-game. Anyway, sorry about that, but no, basically, so the game was guilty for not really having much of a post-game, and like I said, there was only a couple games that did that, so people complained about that, but really, when you look at all the plus sides, all the cool things that this game offers you, you really can't complain, you know? Like, at least that's what I think. Now, my main point about this is that people are now arguing what's going on with this game. Is it going to be a remake, or is it going to be a sequel? Well, basically, when you get down to it, I'm technically hoping it's a remake, but at the same time, if they do make a remake for this game, they're not going to be able to leave it without a post-game. Another thing is that the game itself can't really be a remake if they're wanting to include new Pokemon from the Kalos region. So here's my theory. My theory is that they're not going to do a remake like they did, you know, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, even though they kind of remade it and then added those Pokemon in. I don't think they'd be able to get away with it within the Hoenn region. Plus, the advertisement for it says, discover a new world. And because of that, my theory is that, of course, this is going to be more of a sequel. And even if it is a remake, it's not going to be an actual remake of the game itself. It's just a mere remake of the region. This is obviously going to follow a thing where you can use the Pokebank and blah 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 blah. It's going to be on the 3DS, which I hope means that it has similar functions to X and Y, meaning character customization, Wonder Trade, and etc. Other than that, I'm really not sure how things will work, and I hope that they bring the secret bases back, and I hope that they do have game sync, because that was a really good idea. But not only just game sync with one of your friends, like you were only allowed in the first one, I hope you can game sync with all of your acquaintances and friends in your friends list. That would be amazing. As for what they're going to do with the touchscreen, I really have no idea. But the thing is like, whether it's a remake or a sequel, I'm happy with it. I'm glad that they're revisiting this region, because I think this has been, you know, needed for a long time. Fans have wanted it. There's a lot more people that want it rather than people that don't want it. But yeah, so whether or not it's going to be a remake or a sequel, I don't really think it matters. But this game is coming out November of this year, so as soon as anybody knows how to reserve it, please tell me, because I'm going to reserve both of them. I am not going to wait like I did with X and Y. I hate being out of the loop. And I'm getting my tax money, which means I'm going to be using that to buy these games. That's said. But yeah. I really have nothing else I want to say on this, because there's really not much to say. We haven't been given any images, we haven't been giving anything other than the covers. Ruby version is now called Omega Ruby, and Sapphire version is now called Alpha Sapphire. So I'm excited that we're heading back to the Hoenn region. Like I said, this has been a long ride. It's been 11 years now. God, I'm so old. And I never thought that they were going to remake these games, and I was actually pretty down about it because they weren't. And like I said, a lot of people give it beef, but that's because they're not looking at all the positive things that this game gave us. And even though this game in itself was an experiment, this game really shaped what we thought we were capable of in the world of Pokemon. It gave us more to do and more to think about and more to strategize with. You know, it gave us just more of everything. And yeah, like the Trickmaster's house, the 2 different types of bicycles. God, the list just goes on and on. Like just riding and just ugh, it's just everything. Just awesome, awesome generation. I loved it. I came in first gen, but I will say I really loved freaking third gen and Blaziken. Blaziken. That's all I have to say is Blaziken. You know. Another thing I hope that they do, I hope they involve the Mega Stones, because now that we have a Mega Blaziken, why on earth would they not allow Mega Stones? And I'm hoping that with this game, not only do we get Mega Stones, but we get new Mega Evolutions for the other 2. What's his name? Tortega and Swampert. I hope we get Mega Evolutions for them, since we already have a Mega Blaziken. If they allow Mega Evolution, which I don't see why they wouldn't, because if they're mixing this with X and Y, they're gonna have to do it. But like I said, I don't know, we don't have any information on it, but God, the hype is real, it's here, it's gonna be available, like, I am super stoked about this. So yeah, so Hoenn region has been confirmed, finally, like, really seriously confirmed, you guys. And it's super exciting, it's super awesome, and I literally can't wait. I'm so excited about November of this year. So yeah. Anyways, go ahead and hit like if you like this button, and if this is good news for you. And also leave me a comment in the comment section down below, and let me know, have you ever played these games, like the originals for the Game Boy Advance? Do you still have them? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Why not? You know, the typical. Just answer those questions for me and let me know. Oh, and if you know how to reserve these games, let me know so I can do so as soon as possible, please. But yeah, so anyways, this has been Samatari talking about the brand new Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire for the 3DS coming out in November 2014. And I am out. Talk to you guys later. Alright. Ciao, you guys.